What are we doing out here? Oh, you're gonna stop me from working, huh? Hey, but guess what? Come here. Guess who's out there? Your people are out there. Do you care? Of course he doesn't care. But again, I do. Hi, everybody. It's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas with Cascade the Wonder Dog. Yay! Yep. We're all wondering what in the heck he does around here other than bother me when I'm working, but anyway, it's Cascade and I. It is about 10 o'clock in the morning on December 31st, 2017, so that's New Year's Eve. Beautiful 60-couple degree day out here. You'd never know that our temperature here is probably going to go down to 19 or 18 degrees tonight, according to the weather. The front is going to blast through here. I still don't see it on the horizon, but I've got to prep us for that. And I got to finish the vlog. I've already pre-shot a couple of things here, but it's not much of a vlog because we did a lot of work, but it doesn't look like it. But we'll touch on that in a minute. What I have to do right now, and I kind of wanted to walk you through a little of my prep here, but before I get into that, I want to be sure and tell you a lot of the prep that you're going to see that I'm going to do, which it'll go quickly, but this prep is mainly because the construction is not finished on the house. We have to protect our water system because the house isn't finished. If it were finished, the water would be all protected because, you know, hey, I spent 2 years in the Arctic working supply for the Alaska pipeline, so, I mean, I know how buildings freeze and I know what you have to do. But here, if I do all the work now and then have to redo it and then redo it again, I mean, that's 3 times for a 65-year-old man. So what I do is when we get these cold snaps where we know we're going significantly under freezing, I've got to do some protection, and I'll show you what some of that protection is. But right now, I've got a couple of spots that I've got to put some dirt on, so I'm going to put some dirt in the wheelbarrow and go dump it, and you can follow along. Well, first of all, our weak links are always going to be any exposed piping on top of the ground, and as I said, I'm going to bury a lot of the piping, but there's some piping I can't bury. And that's going to be the valves. Now, each one of these big tanks that we have our water in has a valve right here to shut the water off. Now, I can shut off all the water from the rear with a valve down here. I've got a valve on this tank and a valve right here on this tank. Those valves have to be protected as well as the pipes that run between. Now later on, the pipes can be buried, but the valves are going to remain a weak link, and I think I have a way to protect the valving, you know, later on down the line. But for right now, we have to make sure these are covered with dirt. Now here, if you're in the north, what we call the frost belt, you're familiar with having to build things like your footing of your home or anything that has significant weight. Even if you're digging a patio, you have to dig and go down below what they call the frost line, and that's the line to where the dirt, the ground freezes. Sometimes 12 inches, sometimes 48 inches, sometimes 60, or in the case in the Arctic, we're going into permafrost, which is a whole different ballgame. But here, we don't have a frost line because these cold snaps we get are 1, 2, or 3 days at the most. I've never seen one longer than 3. So the ground never freezes, and that's our advantage. If I just cover my valving and my pipes with dirt, the cold air comes in, but the warm ground that is about, in this case, about 60 degrees, that warm ground is still giving up heat. Well, the heat's escaping out here, but where I've got it covered, the heat has to come all the way through the rock in order to escape. As it comes through the rock, or dirt, it's going by my valves and keeping them warm. So this one's fine. I've got to cover this one. You see a little bit of white there. I've got to cover that. I've got to cover the main one over here. And I'll show you on the main ones the biggest problem I have. And again, talking to people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, you're going to be familiar with this next issue. I'm putting some extra dirt right there that I'll later on tonight, I'll hoe it over the top. But right here, right in here, I have a valve that shuts off all the water coming from the tank. So each tank is protected by a valve, and then the main entry point is protected by a valve here. And the reason I've protected it by a valve here is once I've covered these, the big tanks won't freeze, but everything in front of the valve is in danger. And right here, until I build the utility room onto here, right here is all my manifolds. I made these myself, and all my manifolds are covered. Now, everywhere where you see a T or an elbow, you're vulnerable, whether it be PEX, copper, CPVC, or regular PVC. You're vulnerable. So what do? Well, again, you guys that have cottages, quote, up north, you blow the lines out. So I actually have a way here of making sure that I blow the manifold out by just opening this valve. If I open it, you'll get hit with water. Open this valve here, and I can, it allows the pressure or air to come out. I can also attach an air line here if I want and blow through the system. Now, I may actually do that today, bring it out, but if I don't, Debbie and I can go from where the compressor sits. We've got a sink there, and I can put the air line on the sink and just open each valve individually and open the faucets in the house. Blow all the air out, and that includes out of the pump down here. The only vulnerable point is going to be this tank. We'll have all the pressure out of the tank, so there'll be plenty of room to expand. The hot water tanks will never get cold enough to freeze. So we have to blow out the system, just like you guys do up north. And again, it's just until the house is built. But there's my vulnerable point. And just, you know, if you're looking at it, it doesn't look like it. But if just the plumbing parts were to freeze and crack, we're looking at something in the neighborhood of $500 for me to replace all of that, never mind all the labor. So we do want to protect that by blowing out the system. So that's the thing I've got to do, but I've got to take this dirt and dump it over there in that valve I showed you. So now the pipes and valves are all protected, and as I said, the heat from the ground will come up and protect them. They're all set and protected. So there's still a few other things I have to do, and some parts will still have water in them, like this elbow will have a little water, although it's draining. If there were water in here, or any of the water here, if it gets cold enough to start to freeze, that water isn't under pressure. So the risk of it cracking, if it were to have water in there and freeze, is a lot lower than if it were under, let's say, city water pressure. I'll have completely taken all the pressure out of the system, so water will have a way, even if it's an elbow that's holding water, it'll have a way to expand as it freezes. So that's covered. Let's move on. So the biggest project for the holiday week was working on this wall, and the reason I was doing that is because I had someone that volunteered, wanted to come out here specifically to learn the basics of stonemasonry, and that's what I was saying all along, promising you this big stonemasonry video. Well, this 2 minutes is going to be the big stonemason video, because we didn't, you know, I've done so much on masonry that there isn't anything we can add. But this wall needed a lot of work. We had to build this wall up, and she, my helper, was a lady for a change. She came out here and worked really, really hard. I mean, she was a hod carrier. She set a lot of stones, and I'll show you what stones she did in a minute. But I want to show you what we did. Now, before she got here, I built this frame here, and I've already shown you this wood, and we'll do a close-up of it in the next vlog. But the frame is now set in the wall. It's locked into the wall. That's new, and the rocks to the side of it that are out of frame, that's new. We built the other side of the wall up just as high as you see this side here. And if you recall, it was way down low. We've got it up here, got this all in. I have to point the work we did today, and we pointed as we went. So we've come around. We didn't quite get to the lintel because we are expecting a huge cold snap in the next couple days, and we already had a minor one that cost us a day, or we'd have the lintel up. But we went around here. All in all, we set about 100 rocks, which, you know, if that doesn't sound like a lot of rocks, go out and set 100 rocks and then tell me. But anyway, I want to introduce you to my helper, because that's what we tried to do, is introduce everybody that came. She came from the woofing program, and her name is Valerie. Valerie, you can come in anytime you want. Oh, there she is. Okay, ham it up some more. Come on. I mean, I got hit by a pie in one of these, so. What do you think?
Well, Probably the hardest I've worked in a really long time. I learned a lot though. I didn't know anything about masonry and I feel like I have the basics, so.
Is it harder than it looks?
Yes.
Is it slower than it looks?
Yes. Well, especially here, because it's the environment here is tough. It's dry and high, so.
Yep. She said it all. She said it best. I've been saying that for years, but nobody pays any attention to me. So anyway, that's this segment, and let's get on to the next segment. This will be the this is the New Year's vlog. So on to the next thing. Well, that's the last one. Now we're back here. This tank is actually inside the footprint of the greenhouse, and this is actually going to be part of the air conditioning system. There's going to be 2 more tanks here. That'll be 3 tanks, 9,000 gallons, and we're going to utilize the constant temperature from the tanks in the summertime and in the wintertime to air condition the greenhouse so that we don't get the high temperatures that kills the flowers, and so we don't get cold temperature that kills the plants as well. So I had a valve here that's going to connect to the other 2. Then everything from here goes immediately down 18 inches and runs all the way up to those front tanks underground. That's safe. So it was just right here. So we're all set now. Our water supply is safe. So we're down to about 7,000 gallons of water right now. So our 7,000 gallons are safe. Now I've got to worry about the rest of the place. I already showed you about blowing out the water lines. Couple more things and I'm ready, and it isn't even noon yet. One thing that happens when these cold fronts or any weather front blows in and blows out, they bring in clouds. Now we've learned over the years that first of all we're on short days, so we've got sunrise about 7:30 in the morning and sunset about 5:30 pushing 6 o'clock, so we've lost about 3 hours of daylight in the winter time. You never really notice it that much unless you're on solar power like we are, and that 3 hours makes a difference on charging the system, mainly because those 3 hours from 5:30 to say 9:30, or 4 hours I guess there, those are the hours that you're most active in using the most electricity. Well, if the sun doesn't set till 9 o'clock, I'm not using a lot of electricity, but if it sets at 5:30, I am, so it makes the difference there. What I'm getting at, though, is when it blows in, we have had days where we've had 3 days of clouds. Enough cloud that the system won't charge very well. When those clouds come in, you have to be sure that your solar panels are clean. So I've already cleaned these lower ones here. These are easy, obviously, but they're temporary. These are easy. It's the ones up here on the roof. You see that pink roof behind me? Those are the other 50 panels. Now those, Debbie found and bought an extension scrub brush, just much like you'd use to wash the windows of your car, only it stretches out to 15 feet. I'm going to get up on the roof with the hose, wet them down, scrape them down with that, get every bit of dirt off. So if I'm getting, say, a 20% loss because of the dust, I can't afford that on a cloudy day. So I want to get that all off now before the cold weather hits, and that way we still will have to run the DC generator, but not as much. So I'm going to do that. I'll spare you watching me do that one, but I'll be up there doing all 50 panels. Okay, well, the solar panels, they were a lot harder to clean than I thought. I only do them like once a year, and I forgot how long it takes. There's a total of 57 of them that had to be cleaned. I had 3 of them that got destroyed in an accident early this year. So we had, I guess, 61. But anyway, they're clean. Everything's ready there. The only things left to do, I mean, if we're shutting the water off, then we need to have water put up. We save our bleach bottles all year. We use bleach, of course, in the laundry and also to keep the bird baths, the bird bath fountains clean. So all those bleach bottles, we just fill those with water, and we've always got that water. Debbie filled up every pot that we could. So we've got enough water to be down for, I mean, I'm figuring 3 days, possibly 4 days with no water. We'll get all cleaned up tonight to have a nice shower, and then we're fine. So the only thing left to do is to make sure that the emergency generator has fuel. You all remember the DC generator. Make sure it has fuel, and we have plenty of fuel, but I kind of fell down on this one. And I fell down on it, which brings me to a point I'd kind of like to make. Just another one of my lectures, I guess. But I didn't get gasoline. I didn't get gasoline when I was in Terlingua for two reasons. One, I had to use, the money was all in my debit card, but I had to take it out of my debit card, and the ATM down there charges $3.50 to take it out. Well, I was only going to take out $60, and I didn't want to pay $3.50 for that, number one. Number two, the only gas station we have in Terlingua and Studi Butte, they have charged as much as 75 cents a gallon more than Alpine. They're up at about 40 cents a gallon now more than Alpine. Now, I've mentioned many times I drove truck on and off for 45 years. Debbie and I owned an auto transport business. So I did the math, and the net pure cost of bringing fuel down here is 5 cents a gallon. Double that, give them 10 cents a gallon just for the extra profit of being in a resort area. It should be no more than 10 cents a gallon higher. So they're taking advantage of us. And I'll tell you who it is. It's the Big Bend Resort. So when you come into this area, you come into the Big Bend, fill up with fuel in Van Horn, fill up with fuel in Fort Stockton, top it up in Alpine. Don't give them a penny. First of all, it's a corporation that owns the thing. It's not even a local business. It's a corporation somewhere in France or who the heck knows. But all their prices are too high. Their gasoline's too high. They've been turned in by me personally 3 times for violating the state's usury laws. And they've got a sign up that says that they don't even want to hear any complaints because the gas pumps are owned by West Texas Gas. Well, that's a crock. They're just overcharging out of sheer meanness because they can. And so do all the other businesses down here, most all of which are privately owned, but they still overcharge. So stock up in Fort Stockton at the Walmart, or stock up in Alpine, but don't enable bad behavior. And that's kind of my New Year's message to everybody. Instead of making silly resolutions, I'm going to lose 27 pounds, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take a trip. Instead of doing that, why don't you just resolve with yourself to not enable some of the bad behaviors we're seeing nowadays. This bad behavior, somebody's talking to you or you're having dinner, lunch with them, that bad behavior, that's rude. I'm here face to face with you. Don't be doing this stuff. I don't care if some friend, Cat Lover 16582, has sent you a picture of something they had for lunch today. First of all, you've never met Cat Lover 58652. And number two, I'm here in front of you. I care about what we're talking about. I don't care about what they had for lunch, and neither should you. You never met that person. Put that thing down. Don't enable bad behavior. Don't enable people to do these things that we perceive as rude simply because it's a little embarrassing to open your mouth. You know, when I was a kid back in the 50s, people opened their mouths and nobody gave them a look like, they just said, yeah, put that brat in his place. Don't enable bad behavior. That doesn't mean be rude. It just means point it out. Say, hey, partner, I'm talking to you. Hey, you two girls, you that's packing my groceries, you that's checking me out. No, this conversation between the two of you, I'm here. You focus on me. You talk on your free time. That's kind of what I would suggest to you. And with that, we are ready for this cold snap. It's over. It's like 71 degrees right now. I can't believe that within 12 hours we're going to be down in the 20s. But the weather forecasting's come a long way. So Debbie and I are ready. We're going to hunker down and do some things inside. And I hope all of you have a great time with whatever you're doing. If you are going out, watch out for the temperature. You can get frostbite at 45 degrees. So just be careful. And I'll look forward to talking to every one of you in the new year. And I'm going to post this before midnight tonight. And I'll wish each and every one of you a very, very happy new year. Please let anybody you know about this, anyone that you know that would be interested about this channel. I don't make any money on it, but they might learn something. And Happy New Year to you all. And with that, it's Robert Earl and all of us out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas. See you tomorrow, next year.